Hello and welcome to the eTalk 21 Sports Podcast. My name is Eric coming at you. We're going to dive in and look at week 3 in the NFL in review, and I'm just going to tell you my takeaways from the game, the stuff that stood out to me and everything, and where I was right, where I was wrong, and stuff like that, and where we stand on the year betting wise, and how we did in the week review. First of all, before I get started, let me say this. Some people say, I just bet teams, you just bet the teams you like. That is not it at all. I bet numbers, I bet situations. If I see a number, if I see a situation I like, I'll take it. I grew up in Michigan. My favorite teams, I bet against all the time. If the number says to bet against a team, I will bet against the team. That's it. Numbers, situations, that's what I do. My fandom stops at my pocketbook. Like I said, this is how I make money. This is how I support my family. My number one priority right now in my life is making money for myself and my clients. And that's what I'm trying to do. And with these podcasts I'm recording, I'm trying to just let you guys know where my head is. Because I know I look at stuff differently than a lot of people. That's why I, in the 1% that make money doing this and am successful doing this. And I'm not charging an arm and a leg for my plays. My plays are so reasonably priced compared to everybody else. And I guarantee that no one is putting up the numbers that I am. I mean, take case in point. Right now in the NFL season, you look at my numbers. I am up 40.1 units, and I'm winning 57% of the time. And all my plays are 1 to 2 units. You tell me one person out here on social media that's putting up those numbers that I am. One. I don't think there is. And that's when you're part of my service. That's what you're playing for. All right, so anyway, let's jump into the stuff that stood out for me. Number one, Jalen Ramsey on Monday told the Jags that he has the flu. Let's be serious. He doesn't have the flu. This is back when we were a kid and we didn't want to go to school. We would tell our parents we were sick, we had a temperature, whatever, and guess what? We didn't go to school. This is what he's doing. He's trying to force the Jags to trade him. Jags don't want to trade him. Jags feel that they are a contending team and need Jalen Ramsey to make the playoffs. Okay. But my point is this. Right now, Jalen Ramsey's ROI is the highest it's ever been. Watching that game last night, remember when Josh Norman was considered a shutdown corner and was considered the best cornerback in the game? He was getting lit up like Taylor freaking Gabriel last night. Taylor flipping Gabriel. And it goes back to my thing I mentioned the podcast last week, is there's no such thing as a shutdown corner. There's a cornerback that's good that the other team will throw to the other side. But with today's NFL and favoring offenses, the term shutdown corner is dead. Because if you throw it to the guy, the DB is very limited on what he can do. And you'll get a flag or they'll get yards, first down, whatever. And right now, people aren't throwing to Jalen Ramsey, but they're starting to more, and he's starting to get exposed a little bit, in my opinion. So if I were the Jaguars, I would trade him, and I would try to get as much as I could, as much ROI as I could. Granted, right now, the Raiders are catching a lot of flack for trading Mack, but you don't know how those draft picks, those assets that they occurred, are going to pan out, and those assets that the Bears lost, they could use. The Bears got a lot of holes, and that win last night was a complete bluff and all on Case Keenum, but I'll get into that later. So, couple teams. Number one, someone said the Chiefs could trade for Jalen Ramsey. Here's the thing. How can they afford him? That's what I'm thinking about. How can they afford him? They just re-upped Hill. They're going to have to re-up Patrick Mahomes. Now, if they do that, how much money are they going to really be able to afford to Ramsey? And if they signs him to a big contract, are they going to be able to compete with the Patriots? My answer is no. But here's my thought that I came up with. With Tyreek Hill out and the emergence of the kid Harden, he's actually fit in that Hill role fine. The offense looks, dare I say, better. So maybe they try to move Tyreek Hill. Because I've never been in the school that you need to have an overpriced wide receiver. And if they move Hill, they'll free up money to re-up Ramsey, help that defense, which is a liability. So maybe the Chiefs could do that, but if the Chiefs don't move Hill, I don't really see how financially wise, they can make the move. But that's just kind of my thought, because right now Chiefs offense hasn't missed a beat, and you could argue it's better with Hill out because they're not forcing him the ball. When you have that superstar wide receiver that you overpay for, it forces you in an offense to kind of force that person the ball. And maybe they need to move him, like I'm saying. Just a thought. Someone also mentioned the Lions. Oh my God, at first glance I would love this, because I am a huge Lions fan, and all the Lions futures we have invested going in, because I told everybody they'd be an underrated team going in the season. But they have to re-up Slay. And if you bring in Slay and Ramsey, you're not going to be able to afford both of them. So basically you'd be doing what you'd just be a one-year rental, and you'd be going all in on it. And you'd lose all that draft capital, and I really don't think that'd be the right play for the Lions, because you'd have to re-up both the lost draft capital. Long term, I just don't think it would be the right play. All right, so the next thing is Daniel Jones. No, don't get me wrong, he looked great. He led the Giants back to victory, but what the hell defense was that? You let a rookie quarterback in his first start come into your house and lead a game-winning drive? Toddy Bowles, I thought you were this defensive mastermind. And then down in your deep of your own zone, instead of playing a zone defense, you play man. When everyone has their backs turned, you can just run right into the end zone. My fat ass could have walked in to the end zone. I mean, that defensive game planning by Todd Bowles was embarrassing and was bad. And I was high on the Bucs defense after what they did to McCaffrey and the Panthers, but downgrade for me. But hey, I'll give credit where credit was due. Great job for Daniel Jones, but I'll just kind of pump the brakes on him. They play the Redskins, which is an interdivision game, which those tend to be a little bit lower scoring. Then they play the Vikings D and the Pats D, which are very good. So I would just kind of pump the brakes at Danny Dimes as the second coming of Manning and everything. I would just take a step back, because we have to remember, when we do the NFL is a week-to-week league. And how I'm able to make my money is I take advantage, because everyone remembers the last thing they saw. And people are going to remember that, and the line next week, it's going to get a little inflated, especially after the performance the Redskins just had. Now, let's jump into the Browns real quick. Now, I have not been high on this team. This team went from 50, 60, whatever to win it all, to one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl. Now, why I didn't like them going into the season, and why I faded them the first 2 weeks, granted I didn't have a plan in the third week, was the O-line. I'm a big offensive line person. If you're missing someone on the offensive line, that's huge to me. I feel the Stanley injury is big for the 49ers. The Wynn injury is huge for the Patriots. But that's just the way my personal style of capping games is. The offensive line I value. And at the end of the year, I grade every offensive line, 1 through 32. I graded the Browns very low. And I felt during the offseason, they did not address the needs at the line. And right now, through the first games they've played, that's showing. Their offensive line isn't that good, and it's not giving a young quarterback, Mayfield, time to read the field. Number 2, Freddie Kitchens' offense, second year, Mayfield's second year. Whenever a coach or a quarterback enters a second year, I always look to fade them, because defensive coordinators have more film and more information on their tendencies and trends. Everyone was saying this offense was going to be a high-flying offense. It's looked awful. This offense has looked awful this year, and that's because teams have more film on the Kitchens offense and on Mayfield himself. Also, at the end of the year, I give defensive grades to every team. Okay, you're 1, 2, 3, or 4. 1 and 2 are obviously the best. I looked at the teams that Mayfield played that I graded 1 and 2. His numbers were a 53% completion percentage, 8 TDs, and 13 INTs. So I graded him way lower than everyone else was saying. And because against better competition, he didn't produce. So everyone was jockeying this guy. But if you look deeper into the numbers, you can see when he had a step up in competition, it wasn't that good. Number 4, the whole Duke Johnson thing. When Duke said he wanted to get traded, and Mayfield made that public statement that, hey, get traded, whatever, and then you get all those veterans come out and back Duke. Number 1, if you're a leader, you don't make that statement. Number 2, your veterans will back the leader. So, I mean, that showed me there's a little dissension in that locker room. Number 5, everyone is high in a team. That team always underperforms. That's how it is. If everyone's high in an up-and-coming team, they always underperform. And you can say what you want, but a lot of people are high in this Browns team. And you can see it by how their number moved. And this team reminded me of the Eagles team a little far back. We're at Vic, Young, all Jackson. That's what this team reminded me of. And so far, it's kind of playing out like that. Their depth at wide receiver. Yes, OBJ and Jarvis are good. And I like that kid Callaway. But they're thin. Especially with Callaway's suspension, and Jarvis has to move from the slot to the outside. And his numbers when he's in the slot versus outside are night and day. Because of that stuff, that's why I graded the Browns lower. That's why we played the Titans plus the points in the money line. And then that game against the Jets, that game got up to 6.5. You're telling me Sam Darnold's worth 4 points? Sam flipping Darnold's worth 4 points? And I really feel if Simeon didn't get hurt, that game would have been a lot more competitive. But hey, it is what it is. We didn't play in week 3. We just had the first half under, which we won. We had the second half over, which we pushed. So, I mean, that's why I graded the Browns the way I did. The next thing is the Lions. That was a team I was high on. And right now they're 2-0-1, could easily be 3-0. The O-line has looked great the last 2 games and is not allowed a sack. And if Stafford is allowed to have time to produce, he's good. His completion percentage right now against blitzes is 64%. 64% against blitzes. So when you're rushing him, his percentage is actually better than when you give him time. Just think about that for a minute. Their defensive line is playing good, and their back 4 is better. I have been high on this Lions team because of the line play and the improvements in the secondary. And also, this is Stafford's first year where I truthfully feel he has an actual OC. And the numbers and the results that he's putting up have been great. The thing that worries me, though, is the running game. Kerryon Johnson has not been able to get it going, which I find really weird because the line has done such a great job protecting Stafford, but they can't just get the running game going. This is going to be a huge step this game coming up against the Chiefs, and I am locked and loaded in this game. My move has been sent to my members, and we are going to be firing away on this game. 2 more things to jump on real quick. Chris Carson's done. He's lost his job. He's been fumbling way too much, and after he fumbled, he only got 4 snaps after that fumble. Once Penny's healthy, he's going to be the clear-cut number 1. So if Penny's available in your fantasy leagues, I suggest you pick up Penny. The last thing I want to talk about is Cam Newton. Now, like I said the last time, is we get this thing and we brush these narratives about athletes and we hate them and, blah, 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 blah. Always bring out the negative. Case in point, Nelson Aguilar. There's that guy on Twitter who called out Aguilar saying how he caught babies he wish Aguilar could catch. What does Aguilar do? Retweet, says, hey, who's this guy? I'll hook him up with tickets. Aguilar being a tremendously great sport about that and is hooking this guy up with tickets. And why isn't anyone talking about that? When athletes do good, we never talk about it. When athletes do bad, everyone's on it. And one athlete everyone likes to see fail is Cam Newton. And I have no idea why people hate Cam Newton. Dress, attitude, TD celebrations, whatever. Whatever is the reason, people hate this guy. And this guy always puts it on the line. Risking his body, diving for first downs, quarterback sneaks, whatever. This guy always puts it on the line. And the hatred this guy gets is insane to me. Now, Kyle Allen looked great. He looked great against the Cardinals. And we had the over, which cashed easily. But let's not get it twisted. The Cardinals' defense is awful. It is an awful defense. So let's kind of pump the brakes on Kyle Allen. He's going to go on the road to the Texans. So let's pump the brakes. The whole thing is Cam Newton won the MVP. He took this team to the Super Bowl. Allen's not the starter. He's a number 2 quarterback. That's it. When Newton's healthy, he's going to come back. So let's just kind of pump the brakes, this whole thing about Kyle Allen's new QB1. That's just ludicrous talk in my eyes. Well, we finished a little ROI. Last night sucked. I mean, we shit the bed last night. We're up going into last night, a little over 7, 8 U's. And unfortunately, after last night's complete